Welcome back, friends. Tonight, we travel to a quiet corner of medieval Paris, a city filled with church bells, narrow streets, crowded markets, and secrets hidden behind old stone walls. Most people remember medieval Europe through stories of kings, queens, knights, and great battles. History books often guide us toward castles and cathedrals, toward powerful rulers whose names survived the centuries. But sometimes the most remarkable stories belong to people history nearly forgot. Tonight, we meet one of those people. Imagine yourself walking through Paris in the year 1325. The morning air is cool. The city is beginning to wake. Merchants open their stalls. Bakers carry fresh bread from warm ovens. Horses pull carts across uneven stone roads. The smell of wood smoke drifts through the air. Church bells ring softly in the distance. As you wander through the city, your attention settles upon a small street hidden away from the busiest markets. It is not an impressive street. There are no grand palaces here. No wealthy nobles passing by in expensive clothing. Instead, there stands an ordinary house with a simple wooden door. Nothing about it seems unusual. And yet behind that door lies one of the most extraordinary collections of books in the city. The owner is not a monk. She is not a university scholar. She is not a wealthy lord. She is a woman named Isabelle. For many people living in medieval Europe, books were treasures beyond imagination. A single manuscript could take months or even years to create. Every page was copied by hand. Every letter carefully written using ink and quill. Books were expensive, rare, precious. Most ordinary people would never own even one. Yet somehow Isabelle spent years gathering them. History rarely speaks loudly about women like her. No armies marched beneath her banner. No monuments were built in her honor. But inside her small home, surrounded by shelves filled with knowledge, she quietly created something remarkable. A place where ideas could survive. A place where stories could travel across generations. A place where curious minds could gather. And perhaps the most surprising part of all, she built it entirely on her own. So tonight, as the candles flicker softly and the city of medieval Paris slowly comes alive around us, settle comfortably beneath your blankets. Lower the lights. Take a slow breath. And allow yourself to drift back 700 years into a forgotten world of parchment, candlelight, and hidden knowledge. Because our story is only just beginning. Welcome back, friends. As our journey continues tonight, let us step deeper into medieval Paris and meet the young girl who would one day create a hidden library unlike anything her neighbors had ever seen. The year is 1310. The city stretches along the river Seine beneath grey skies and drifting clouds. Church towers rise above crowded rooftops. Bells ring throughout the day, marking the passing hours. The streets are busy from sunrise until sunset. Merchants call out to customers. Blacksmiths hammer glowing metal. Bakers fill the air with the smell of fresh bread. And among these busy streets lives a young girl named Isabelle. At first glance, there seems nothing unusual about her. She lives with her parents in a modest home near one of the city's market districts. Her father works as a merchant, buying and selling cloth brought from distant towns. Her mother manages the household. Like most children of her time, Isabelle is expected to grow up, marry, and follow a familiar path through life. But from an early age, something about her is different. She asks questions. Many questions. Questions about everything. Why do stars move across the sky? Where do rivers begin? What lies beyond the distant mountains? Why do some stories survive for hundreds of years? Her parents often smile at her curiosity. Sometimes they have answers. Sometimes they do not. And when they cannot answer, Isabelle becomes even more determined to discover the truth herself. One afternoon, while accompanying her father on a business trip across the city, she notices something unusual. An elderly scribe sits near a church doorway. Before him rests a large wooden desk covered in sheets of parchment. His hand moves slowly across the page. Letter by letter. Word by word. Creating a book. Isabelle stops walking. She watches silently. The careful movements fascinate her. The scribe notices her curiosity and smiles. For several minutes she stands there watching black ink transform blank parchment into stories. That simple moment changes everything. For the first time, Isabelle understands that books do not simply appear. Someone creates them. Someone preserves knowledge so future generations can learn from it. As she walks home that evening, she cannot stop thinking about the old scribe. Days later, she returns. Then she returns again. And again. Each visit brings new discoveries. She learns how parchment is made. She learns how ink is prepared. She learns how books are copied by hand. Most importantly, she discovers that every manuscript contains knowledge from people who lived long before her. Suddenly, books feel almost magical. Not because of spells or enchantments, but because they allow voices from the past to speak across centuries. Years pass. Isabelle grows older. Her curiosity grows with her. While other children spend their afternoons playing games in the streets, she often searches for opportunities to learn. She listens to travelers speaking about distant lands. She studies maps whenever she can find them. She asks merchants about the places they have visited. Sometimes she sits quietly near churches simply listening to educated men discuss ideas she barely understands. Yet every conversation teaches her something new. The world begins to feel larger than the city around her. Larger than France. Larger than anything she had imagined. One winter evening, her father brings home a small damaged manuscript purchased from another merchant. The book is old. Several pages are missing. The leather cover is cracked. Most people would consider it worthless. To Isabelle, it is the greatest treasure she has ever seen. Carefully she opens the pages. Inside are stories copied decades earlier. Though some words are difficult to understand, she spends hours reading by candlelight. Outside, snow falls softly over Paris. Inside, a different world opens before her eyes. A world filled with ideas. History. Knowledge. Possibilities. That night she hardly sleeps. Instead, she dreams of books. Shelves filled with books. Rooms filled with books. Entire buildings filled with books. At the time, she does not realize that those dreams will someday become reality. As months turn into years, her reputation quietly grows among local merchants. People begin noticing her unusual interests. Some find them amusing. Others find them strange. Why would a young woman care so much about books? Why spend time reading when there are more practical concerns in life? But Isabelle pays little attention to such opinions. Her love of learning continues growing stronger. Every coin she saves becomes an opportunity. An opportunity to purchase another manuscript. Another story. Another piece of knowledge. By the time she reaches adulthood, she owns several books of her own. Not many. But enough to begin imagining something bigger. Something that no one around her expects. A place where knowledge can be preserved. A place where curious minds can gather. A place where books can live safely for generations. And although she cannot yet see the full shape of her future, the first foundations of her hidden library are already being built. One manuscript at a time. One page at a time. One dream at a time. And as candlelight flickers across the walls of her small room, young Isabelle turns another page and wonders what knowledge might still be waiting to be discovered. For her story is only beginning.
Tonight, Let us continue our gentle journey through medieval Paris and follow Isabelle as she takes the first true steps toward building the hidden library that would one day become her life's greatest achievement. The years pass quietly. The curious young girl we met earlier is now a young woman. Paris continues to grow around her. The markets remain crowded. The church bells continue to ring across the city. Merchants still arrive from distant lands carrying goods from places most people will never see. Yet Isabelle notices something different from what others notice. While merchants admire silk, spices, and silver, Isabelle pays attention to books. Everywhere she goes, she searches for them. Not because books are fashionable, not because they are valuable, but because each one contains a piece of the world she longs to understand. Imagine walking beside her through the streets of Paris on a cool autumn morning. The air smells faintly of rain. Leaves drift across the stone roads. Ahead stands a small shop owned by a manuscript dealer. The wooden sign above the entrance sways gently in the breeze. Most people walk past without stopping. But Isabelle enters. Inside, the room feels almost magical. Shelves line the walls. Scrolls rest inside wooden chests. Books sit stacked carefully upon tables. The smell of parchment and ink fills the air. To Isabelle, it is one of the most beautiful places in the city. She runs her fingers gently across the leather covers. Some books contain history. Others contain poetry. Some describe distant kingdoms. Others explain the movement of stars across the night sky. Each book feels like a doorway waiting to be opened. Unfortunately, books remain expensive. Very expensive. Creating a manuscript requires countless hours of work. Scribes must copy every word by hand. Artists often decorate pages with colorful illustrations. The materials themselves cost money. As a result, even a single book can cost more than many families earn in months. For Isabelle, this presents a challenge. She cannot afford every manuscript she wants. So she develops a strategy. She saves every coin she can. She avoids unnecessary purchases. She waits patiently for opportunities. Sometimes damaged books become available at lower prices. Others are sold by travelers who need quick money before leaving the city. Occasionally she finds manuscripts that few people consider important. Those become her favorites. Not because they are rare, but because they are overlooked. And Isabelle has always been drawn toward forgotten things. One winter afternoon, she discovers a manuscript describing ancient medicinal plants. Its cover is badly worn. Several pages have water damage. Many buyers ignore it completely. Yet Isabelle immediately recognizes its value. The knowledge inside may survive nowhere else. Without hesitation, she spends nearly all her savings to purchase it. As she carries the manuscript home beneath grey winter skies, she feels no regret. Only excitement. That evening she carefully repairs the damaged binding. The process takes hours. Outside, snow falls softly across Paris. Inside, candlelight dances across the pages. Slowly, patiently, she restores the book as best she can. When she finally finishes, she places it beside her growing collection. For a moment she simply looks at the shelf. 5 books. Then 6. Then 7. Not a large collection by modern standards. But in medieval Europe, it is already remarkable. Years continue passing. Her collection grows steadily. Travelers begin bringing unusual manuscripts to her attention. A merchant arriving from Italy sells her a book containing classical philosophy. A sailor brings stories copied from distant ports. A scholar offers a manuscript discussing astronomy. Each edition expands her library. Each edition expands her understanding of the world. Soon her evenings follow a familiar routine. After finishing her daily responsibilities, she lights candles and sits beside her books. Hours pass quietly. Sometimes she reads. Sometimes she copies notes. Sometimes she simply studies maps and wonders about lands beyond the horizon. The room becomes her sanctuary. A place of peace. A place of discovery. A place where the noise of the city fades away. Yet something unexpected begins happening. People notice. Friends visiting her home pause in surprise. Merchants mention her collection to others. Travelers speak about the woman who seems more interested in books than luxury. Word spreads slowly through Paris. At first, people are merely curious. Then they become impressed. Some even begin asking whether they can borrow certain manuscripts. Isabelle agrees. Carefully. She trusts only a few people. Books are precious. Many cannot be replaced. Still, she enjoys seeing others learn from them. Knowledge, she believes, becomes more valuable when shared. One evening, after lending a manuscript to a young clerk, she watches him leave carrying the book carefully beneath his arm. A simple thought enters her mind. Perhaps these books are meant for more than her own education. Perhaps they can help others too. The idea remains with her for weeks. Then months. Gradually it begins transforming into a dream. A dream larger than a personal collection. A dream larger than a shelf filled with manuscripts. She begins imagining a place where books can be gathered together. Protected. Organized. Shared. A place where anyone truly interested in learning can find knowledge waiting for them. She does not yet know how such a place will exist. She does not know how large it might become. But the vision has already taken root. And once a dream takes root in a curious mind, it becomes very difficult to stop. As another winter settles over medieval Paris, Isabelle stands before her growing shelves of books. The candles flicker softly. The room is quiet. Outside, the city sleeps beneath the cold night sky. Inside, the future hidden library is beginning to take shape. One manuscript at a time. One idea at a time. One precious book at a time. And somewhere deep within her heart, Isabelle knows that this is only the beginning. Tonight, as the bells of medieval Paris echo softly across the rooftops, we continue our journey with Isabelle and the growing collection of books that is slowly changing her life. Years have passed since she purchased her first manuscripts. Her shelves are no longer nearly empty. What once consisted of only a handful of books has become a collection large enough to fill an entire room. And with each passing season, new manuscripts continue to arrive. Some come from merchants. Others arrive through travelers. A few are gifts from friends who know of her love for learning. Before long, Isabelle faces a problem she never expected. She is running out of space. Imagine stepping inside her home on a quiet spring morning. Sunlight streams through the windows. Dust dances gently through the beams of light. The walls are lined with shelves. Books rest on tables. Books sit beside chairs. Books are stacked carefully in corners. Everywhere she looks, there are manuscripts. The sight fills her with happiness. Yet it also presents a challenge. If her collection continues growing, she will need a better way to organize it. So one day, Isabelle makes an important decision. She chooses to transform part of her home into something unusual. Something few people in medieval Paris have ever seen. A private library. The project begins slowly. A local carpenter helps build strong wooden shelves. Additional tables are placed throughout the room. Storage chests are moved elsewhere to create more space. The transformation takes weeks. Perhaps even months. But eventually the room begins to resemble the vision Isabelle has carried in her mind for years. The shelves stretch from floor to ceiling. Books are grouped by subject. History on one shelf. Poetry on another. Medicine near the window. Astronomy beside a writing desk. Each manuscript has its place. Each book is treated with care. And when the final shelf is completed, Isabelle stands quietly in the center of the room. For a moment, she simply looks around. The room is not grand. It is not luxurious. But it is beautiful. Because it contains something more valuable than gold. It contains knowledge. As word spreads about her collection, visitors begin arriving more frequently. At first, only a few trusted friends stop by. A merchant curious about geography. A clerk interested in history. A young student eager to learn. They spend hours reading together. Discussing ideas. Sharing stories. The atmosphere is calm and welcoming. Soon those visitors tell others. And little by little, Isabelle's library becomes known among a small circle of curious minds. One afternoon, a traveler arrives carrying manuscripts from Italy. His journey has taken months. His books contain ideas few people in Paris have encountered before. Isabelle eagerly studies them. In exchange, she allows him access to her own collection. Both leave richer in knowledge than when they arrived. Such exchanges become increasingly common. Travelers bring stories. Scholars bring questions. Writers bring ideas. And Isabelle welcomes them all. The library becomes more than a room filled with books. It becomes a meeting place. A place where people gather to learn from one another. Imagine an evening inside the library. Outside, rain taps gently against the windows. The streets of Paris grow quiet beneath the darkness. Inside, candles flicker softly. Several visitors sit around a wooden table. One reads from a manuscript describing distant kingdoms. Another discusses the stars. Someone else shares poetry copied from an ancient text. The conversations continue late into the night. Not loud. Not dramatic. Simply thoughtful. Peaceful. Curious. For many visitors, these evenings become the highlight of their week. Because knowledge has a way of bringing people together. And Isabelle understands this better than anyone. She notices something remarkable. The books themselves are important. But the friendships formed around them may be even more valuable. People who would otherwise never meet now share ideas. Merchants speak with scholars. Students learn from travelers. Writers find inspiration through conversation. The library creates connections. And those connections continue spreading throughout the city. As the years pass, Isabelle keeps careful records of her collection. She writes notes about each manuscript. Where it came from. Who donated it? What knowledge it contains. These records require patience. Yet she believes future generations may someday find them useful. In many ways, she is preserving history while living through it. Sometimes she works late into the night organizing books. The city outside falls silent. The candles burn low. Yet Isabelle remains awake, carefully arranging manuscripts upon the shelves. In those quiet hours, she feels a deep sense of purpose. The library is no longer merely a dream. It is real. It exists. And it continues growing. Still, she knows challenges may lie ahead. Books remain expensive. Space remains limited. Not everyone understands what she is trying to accomplish. But those concerns can wait. For now, she allows herself a rare moment of satisfaction. Standing among the shelves she built, surrounded by knowledge gathered over many years, Isabelle realizes something extraordinary. The hidden library she once imagined as a young girl has finally become reality. And although she cannot know it yet, its greatest impact is still to come. Because soon, visitors from across the region will begin seeking out the remarkable woman who turned a simple room into a sanctuary of learning. And the quiet little library hidden within medieval Paris will become more important than anyone could have imagined. Tonight, the candles are glowing warmly inside Isabelle's hidden library, and the quiet room that once belonged only to her is beginning to fill with new voices. For many years, Isabelle collected books simply because she loved learning. She never imagined that her small library would attract visitors from across the city and beyond. Yet that is exactly what begins to happen. As word spreads through medieval Paris, more and more people become curious about the woman with shelves full of rare manuscripts. Some arrive seeking knowledge. Others arrive seeking answers. A few arrive simply because they have heard rumors of a place unlike any other. And with every visitor, the library slowly changes. Imagine a cool autumn afternoon. The streets outside are crowded with merchants and travelers. A gentle breeze carries fallen leaves through the city. Inside the library, however, everything feels calm. The fire crackles softly. Candles flicker against stone walls. Books rest quietly upon their shelves. A knock sounds at the door. A young student enters. His clothing is simple. His hands are stained with ink from long hours of writing. He bows respectfully and asks whether he may study one of Isabelle's manuscripts about astronomy. She smiles and welcomes him inside. Hours pass as he carefully reads beneath candlelight. Before leaving, he thanks her. Months later, he returns. Then he returns again. Eventually, he becomes one of the library's most frequent visitors. Stories like this become common. Another visitor is a merchant who spends much of his life traveling across Europe. He brings news from distant cities. Venice, Florence, London, Bruges. In return for access to the library, he shares stories about places few Parisians will ever see. The visitors listen with fascination. Maps are unfolded across wooden tables. Trade routes are discussed. New ideas spread through conversation. The library becomes a window into the wider world. One winter evening, a traveling scholar arrives during a snowstorm. His cloak is covered with snow. His boots are wet from the journey. Yet despite the cold, his eyes brighten when he sees the shelves. For hours he studies manuscripts he has spent years searching for. Before leaving, he contributes several handwritten notes of his own. Knowledge is exchanged. Ideas are shared. Everyone benefits. As the seasons pass, the hidden library becomes something Isabelle never expected. A community. People begin recognizing familiar faces. Friendships form. Visitors discuss books together. They debate ideas respectfully. They learn from one another. Many arrive as strangers. Some leave as lifelong friends. Imagine one peaceful evening. Rain taps softly against the windows. The city outside grows quiet. Inside the library, several visitors gather around a wooden table. One reads poetry aloud. Another shares observations about the stars. Someone else discusses the history of ancient Rome. The conversations continue for hours. No one is in a hurry. No one wishes to leave. For a little while, the worries of everyday life disappear. Only curiosity remains. And perhaps that is what makes the library so special. It is not merely a place where books are stored. It is a place where people connect. A place where ideas travel from one mind to another. A place where learning feels alive. Even Isabelle notices the change. When she first began collecting books, she imagined shelves. She imagined manuscripts. She imagined preserving knowledge. What she never imagined was the sense of belonging that would emerge. The laughter. The conversations. The friendships. The community. One spring morning, while organizing books, she pauses to watch several visitors discussing a manuscript together. Their excitement reminds her of herself as a young girl discovering books for the first time. For a moment, she feels proud. Not because she owns the books, but because she has created a place where learning can flourish. A place where curiosity is welcomed rather than discouraged. Yet the growing popularity of the library brings new attention. More people begin hearing about it. More people begin talking about it. Not everyone speaks kindly. Some wonder why a woman possesses such a collection. Others question whether so many gatherings are appropriate. Whispers begin spreading through parts of the city. At first, Isabelle pays little attention. But the whispers grow louder. The library's success has attracted admiration. It has also attracted criticism. And soon, challenges will appear that threaten everything she has worked so hard to build. For now, however, the library remains peaceful. The candles continue burning. Visitors continue arriving. Books continue changing lives. And as another evening settles over medieval Paris, Isabelle closes a manuscript and looks around the room. Students are reading quietly. Travelers are sharing stories. Friends are discussing ideas. The hidden library is alive. More alive than she ever dreamed possible. Yet beyond the warm glow of candlelight, change is coming. And the next chapter of her story will test her determination like never before. Tonight, as the warm glow of candlelight fills Isabelle's hidden library, we arrive at a chapter that many dreamers eventually face. The chapter where success attracts attention. And attention attracts challenges. For many years, the library had existed quietly. A peaceful place hidden among the streets of medieval Paris. A place where books were protected. Where ideas were shared. Where curious people gathered to learn. But now, things are changing. The library is no longer a secret. Its reputation has spread throughout the city. Merchants speak about it. Travelers tell stories about it. Students recommend it to friends. And while many admire what Isabelle has created, not everyone views it the same way. Imagine walking through the market one morning. The city is busy as always. Shopkeepers arrange their goods. Customers bargain over prices. Voices fill the air. Yet among those voices, whispers can be heard. Have you heard about the woman with all the books? Why does she need so many? Why are people always visiting her house? At first, such comments seem harmless. Simple curiosity. Nothing more. But curiosity can sometimes become suspicion. And suspicion often grows when people do not understand something. Many people in medieval society expected women to follow a familiar path. Marriage, family, household responsibilities. That was the life most people understood. Isabelle's life looked different. She spent her time collecting manuscripts, organizing records, hosting scholars, discussing ideas. To some people, this seemed unusual, perhaps even unsettling. One afternoon, while visiting the market, Isabelle notices several people watching her. Not with anger, not even with hostility, but with curiosity mixed with confusion. She understands immediately. They are trying to fit her story into a pattern they recognize. Yet her story does not fit. And that makes some people uncomfortable. Still, Isabelle refuses to let such opinions disturb her. She has work to do, books to preserve, knowledge to protect. So she continues forward. But whispers are not the only challenge. A more practical problem soon emerges. Money. Books remain expensive. Maintaining the library requires constant effort. Shelves need repairs. Manuscripts require protection from moisture and insects. Candles must be purchased. Supplies must be replaced. Each year brings new expenses. Imagine Isabelle sitting late at night beside a wooden table. Before her lies a small ledger. Carefully she reviews numbers by candlelight. Income, expenses, repairs, purchases. The calculations are not encouraging. Several manuscripts she hopes to acquire are far beyond her budget. Some months are difficult. Very difficult. Yet she refuses to give up. Instead, she becomes more resourceful. She purchases damaged books and restores them. She exchanges manuscripts rather than buying them outright. She accepts donations from trusted visitors. Little by little, the library survives. Then another challenge appears. One spring, heavy rain falls across Paris for weeks. Water seeps through parts of the city. Several books develop signs of moisture damage. For Isabelle, this is heartbreaking. Books can be repaired. But some forms of damage are permanent. She works tirelessly to protect her collection. Windows are reinforced. Shelves are moved. Manuscripts are carefully dried and cleaned. For days she barely rests. Yet her efforts save most of the collection. And once again, the library endures. As the years pass, criticism continues. But something unexpected also begins happening. People start defending her. Former visitors speak on her behalf. Students praise the opportunities she provides. Travelers share stories of libraries they have seen elsewhere. Many realize that Isabelle is not creating problems. She is creating opportunities. An elderly scholar who frequently visits the library says something memorable one evening. Knowledge does not become weaker when it is shared. The words spread among visitors. Soon they become something of a motto. A reminder of why the library exists. Not for prestige. Not for wealth. But for learning. Gradually, public opinion begins changing. The whispers grow quieter. Respect slowly replaces suspicion. People may not fully understand Isabelle's mission, but they can see its results. Young students becoming educated. Writers finding inspiration. Travelers exchanging ideas. Friendships forming. The library is improving lives. And that becomes increasingly difficult to criticize. One evening, after most visitors have gone home, Isabelle walks slowly through the library. The candles burn low. The room is silent. She pauses beside a shelf and runs her hand gently across the books. Each manuscript represents years of effort. Years of sacrifice. Years of determination. The journey has not been easy. There have been doubts. Obstacles. Financial struggles. Moments of exhaustion. Yet despite everything, the library still stands. And standing there among the shelves, Isabelle realizes something important. Challenges are not signs that a dream should end. Sometimes they are proof that the dream matters. Outside, the city sleeps beneath the stars. Inside, the library remains safe. Its books protected. Its future uncertain but hopeful. And though Isabelle cannot know it yet, her greatest achievement still lies ahead. Because while she has spent years building a library, she is about to create something even more lasting. A legacy. One that will survive long after she is gone. One that future generations may still discover. And that is where our story will travel next. Tonight, our journey through medieval Paris approaches its final chapter. The candles burn lower now. The years have passed quietly, and the woman who once stood in wonder before a single handwritten manuscript has grown older. Outside her windows, the city continues to change. New buildings rise. Old faces disappear. Children become adults. Seasons come and go. Yet inside the hidden library, much remains the same. The shelves are fuller than ever. The manuscripts are carefully organized. And visitors still arrive seeking knowledge. Imagine a peaceful autumn evening. Golden leaves drift across the streets of Paris. A cool breeze moves through the city. Inside the library, Isabelle sits beside a wooden desk near the window. A candle flickers softly beside her. Before her rests a large ledger. Its pages contain decades of records. Names of visitors. Descriptions of manuscripts. Notes about books acquired long ago. She turns the pages slowly. Each entry brings back memories. The young student who first visited years earlier. The merchant who carried stories from distant lands. The scholar who arrived during a winter snowstorm. Many of them have moved on. Some have grown old themselves. A few are no longer living. Yet through these pages, they remain part of the library's story. And Isabelle smiles. Because she realizes something important. The library was never truly about books alone. It was about people. Books connected them. Ideas united them. Knowledge brought them together. That was always the real treasure. As Isabelle enters her later years, she begins thinking more often about the future. Not her future. The library's future. What will happen when she is gone? Who will care for the manuscripts? Who will continue preserving the knowledge she spent her life collecting? The questions remain in her mind for many months. Then slowly, an answer appears. Several younger visitors have become trusted friends. They share her love of learning. They understand the value of preservation. Most importantly, they understand the purpose of the library. One by one, Isabelle begins teaching them everything she knows. How to care for manuscripts. How to repair damaged bindings. How to organize collections. How to record information properly. The lessons continue for years. Patiently, carefully. The knowledge that once belonged only to her begins passing into new hands. Imagine one winter evening. Snow falls gently outside. The library feels warm and peaceful. Several younger students sit around a table listening as Isabelle explains the history of one particularly rare manuscript. The fire crackles softly nearby. The room glows with candlelight. For a moment, it feels almost timeless. A chain of knowledge stretching across generations. Past to present. Present to future. And perhaps that is what Isabelle loves most. Not owning books, but knowing that the knowledge inside them will continue living. Long after she is gone. As years continue passing, the library becomes respected throughout parts of the city. Many people who once questioned Isabelle now admire her work. Students speak of her with gratitude. Travelers recommend visits to the library. Writers reference manuscripts they discovered there. Her influence spreads quietly. Not through power. Not through wealth. But through ideas. And ideas often travel farther than anything else. Eventually, Isabelle grows too old to manage every detail herself. Her steps become slower. Her hands less steady. She spends more time reading and less time organizing. Yet she remains content. Because she knows the library is safe. The next generation is ready. The work will continue. One spring morning, sunlight streams through the library windows. Birds sing outside. The city awakens to another ordinary day. Inside, Isabelle walks slowly among the shelves. She pauses often, touching familiar books, remembering old friends, thinking about the journey that brought her here. From a curious young girl fascinated by a scribe's work, to the founder of a hidden library that changed countless lives, the journey feels almost unbelievable. Yet every shelf around her proves it was real. Every manuscript tells part of the story. Every visitor helped write another chapter. Years later, after Isabelle's passing, the library continues. The collection changes hands. Some manuscripts travel to other cities. Others remain where they are. Time moves forward, as it always does. Centuries pass. Buildings change. Wars come and go. Entire generations disappear into history. Yet traces of Isabelle's work survive. A catalogue entry here. A manuscript record there. A reference hidden within an old document. Tiny clues waiting patiently for historians to discover them. And eventually, someone does. A researcher opens an ancient record. A forgotten name appears on the page. Isabelle. The woman who built a library. The woman who preserved knowledge. The woman history nearly forgot. Yet not completely. Because the greatest legacies are not always monuments. They are not always castles. They are not always statues carved from stone. Sometimes a legacy is a collection of ideas. A place where people learned. A room filled with books. A life devoted to knowledge. As our journey comes to an end tonight, imagine one final visit to the hidden library. The candles glow softly. The shelves stand quietly in the darkness. Outside, medieval Paris sleeps beneath a sky full of stars. And somewhere among those silent shelves, the spirit of curiosity still remains. A reminder that even the quietest lives can leave footprints that last for centuries. The library is silent now. Very silent. The final page has been turned. The candles have nearly burned out. And as the night grows deeper, we leave Isabelle and her hidden library resting peacefully within the pages of history. Good night, friends. And until our next journey through the past, sleep well. Crescent moon. ***, the end. ***.